Awesome. Hey, thanks everybody for coming out. I am excited to talk about some of the things we're going to discuss this evening. I'll give you a little bit of intro of what we're doing, and we'll get on to our guest speaker in a bit. But I can tell some things about each of you, and one of that is that you want to grow and you want to learn, and that because you came here, there wasn't a lot of explanation on what all was going to be presented tonight, and you showed up. So hopefully we can make it worthwhile. We're going to keep it fairly compact, and it's just going to be an hour long, and we'll be very interactive. So we'll give an opportunity to ask some questions and things like that as well. But what we're trying to do with Invested Life is create an opportunity to learn about fitness, finance, faith, and family. And that's the whole kind of the overarching concept is the different areas of life. And if you learn and grow personally, you can eventually be an example and help others as well. And you can lead and make a difference in your life and the other people involved around you. We're all leading. We're all being an example to somebody. And we're going to go over a little framework a little bit later on as well, a worksheet to kind of explain some of that. Obviously, you've probably seen some water and coffee there. The restroom's right outside, so help yourself as we need there. We're going to try to wrap up on time here at 6:30, and we'll be dismissed. You can stick around as long as you like afterwards. But this evening, we have a special guest, a gentleman I've got to know over the last couple years. He is an Iowa native and has traveled around and was a player with the Iowa State football team and became a coach for over in Germany. Mm-hmm. A very successful coach, has been inducted into the German Football Hall of Fame. 15 years of intense winning streak, and came back, worked locally in teaching some football, coaching here, worked at Winnebago, and I've got to know him from working at Metal Wholesale the last 2 years as well. So thank you, Mr. Kent Anderson, for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Oh, wow. There we go. I know a lot of you. I don't believe that applause whatsoever.
Yeah, if you would, tell us
Yes.
about your story.
Well, yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'll try to tell my story and try to maybe, I don't like doing that because it sounds so self-serving in a way. You're telling your story. I've been lucky. I've been fortunate to have a lot of success, and I grew up in a humble household where you don't try to pat yourself on the back too much. You just say thank you and you go on your way. But I think the successes I've had have all come through a lot of failures, and in winning or in business or whatever. And but also I've learned a lot of good lessons along the way, and maybe I can share a couple things that. And this isn't for everybody. You don't have to be a football fan or even understand the game. It's all about human relationships, and that's the one thing I learned along the way. And starting here in Bloomfield, in Davis County. We moved here when I was 5 years old, so I'm practically born and raised, just really raised in Bloomfield, Davis County. And just came with my parents were teachers. We grew up, we didn't have a lot, but we never went without. And I just grew up in a loving household, and I think that's a lot of Iowans can identify with that, or Midwesterners can identify with growing up in a good environment, not having excess, but also just not being without. And that's a great, humble way to have and lead a lifestyle. And it's in humble beginnings. And my parents were great folks and great mentors for me. So I grew up in Davis County, did the whole, the Davis County Fair was the biggest thing on the planet Earth when I was 12 or 13, even in high school. I thought we could not go anywhere because my sister and I, no, we don't want to go on vacation, not during the fair, because we wanted to be out there with our friends where we could get to see them, because we couldn't see them during the summer as much. And of course, we didn't have social media back then, and so you had to actually be social with each other and interact. So grew up, and I can remember I had an opportunity when I was about 17 to go skiing in Colorado with the family, and I did not want to go. I did not want to go. I had a high school girlfriend. I don't want to go to Colorado skiing. And I end up, it was almost a dozen years later, and I'm moving to Germany. This is from a kid who did not want to go. My mother said, "You're going, and you're going to have fun." And I did, and I had fun. But it opened my eyes to some things outside of Davis County and Bloomfield. Not that there's not enough here, because look where I am. I'm back in the place that I grew up. But it opened my eyes, and my mother and dad taught me a lot about just pushing your envelope a little bit. And that was the first experience I remembered, how to push that envelope and go somewhere that I was uncomfortable, because I was pretty darn comfortable at the county fair, at the high school, at the swimming pool, around town on the square. I was pretty darn comfortable there, and getting out in those other areas, for me at that time, it was a little anxious. And I didn't know if I was going to enjoy that so much, and I did. I had the opportunity when I graduated from high school to go play college football at a really good university. So when you play, if you're not familiar with college football, really the only way you can play is you get invited. And you can go, but you have to get special permission, but you have to to get invited. And you quickly become one of 1%. You're 1% of the best football players in the United States. And that's a pretty cool class to be in. And man, did I learn awful fast that Bloomfield is small, because I thought I could do all these things, and there were guys, I was like, wow, they're so athletic, and they're so big, and they're so fast, and they're so strong. I'll never be able to compete with these guys. I don't stand a chance. And 4 years later, I did. And I learned that taught me hard work. We had to get in the weight room. I was just going on natural ability. We didn't have weights and things like that back then. So I learned to get outside the envelope a little bit from my mother. I learned to go and compete at a very high level. I was always very competitive. If you played Monopoly in our household, there was going to be something thrown. I'll guarantee you. And it was usually my dad. But we were a competitive family, and we figured if there's a scoreboard or if there's going to be a result, it's there for a reason. So someone's going to win and someone's going to get heckled. And we grew up in that kind of environment, very fun like that. But I learned a competitive, and that brought me to a place where to play and to walk out into a stadium when we played at the University of Oklahoma. And I learned a couple good lessons, and I'll talk about that. But first thing I learned was when you walk out into a stadium and there's 90,000 people and they're booing you, it's pretty cool. It was really cool. It's cool to get booed. I mean, 90,000 people booing. They're throwing stuff at you, donuts or whatever. It wasn't aggressive. They're just, putting water on you or Pepsi, and it was like, man, that's really cool. I kind of like that. And it's a fun feeling. It's also intimidating, but you learn to deal with it. You learn to have it right in your face pressure. And as time grew by, I learned to embrace pressure. I kind of loved it. And I didn't always. You get to a comfort level and you just go like, all right. And I do this in my personal life already. If I have pain, I'll ask the Lord, hit me with it. Hit me right in the teeth with it. If I need to deal with it, right on, hit me right in the teeth so I can deal with it. And I've recently done that more than once in the last week and a half. Hit me with it. Put it right on me. And I think I learn, and I always say, pressure makes diamonds. Pressure also busts pipes. So I want to be the diamond. So if I asked to bring it, then bring it. Something else I learned at that, when I talked about walking out in that stadium and getting booed and handling pressure and handling adversity and just being challenged to take it right on in the face, is I learned the KISS philosophy. Keep it simple, stupid. We played a team, and you don't have to know football. We had played a team that did three things. It was called the triple option. They were going to give the ball, They're going to pitch it to this guy or we're going to keep it. Everybody in the stadium knew exactly what they were going to do. 90,000 people who were pretty educated in football, our coaches knew what they were going to do. We as players knew what they were going to do. And for those of you who played me, I've probably told you this story before, but they were so good at it, nobody could stop them. And I learned right there, it's not about all the great things you do, like in business or things like that. It's find what you do really well. Daniel, you did our concrete really well. And I know you've just gotten into the concrete business again, and tremendous. But that's what I learned, and that's how I try to lead right now. I don't want to be so complex that we're average at a lot of things and good at very few. And I learned that as a 20-year-old kid getting smacked at Oklahoma when they're throwing pop on you and watching a team and everybody knew what they did, but we still couldn't stop them because they were so good. They worried about themselves. Let's do our stuff right. And that was a lesson that I still carry with me today, even in business, family. If I go deer hunting, I'm going to try to do a few things right. And there's not a lot I do right deer hunting. But that might be getting the lucky shot might be part of it. But that's something I carried with me. So I learned some of those lessons along the way. Fast forward a little bit, I end up in coaching, end up at a big university showing this guy from Germany around who flew in, who had a German accent. He spoke like this, and I want to see football, and this is very good, and we like this, and this is fantastic. And I couldn't speak any German, none. And I'm 30 years old. Can't speak German. I'm making my paycheck at the University of North Carolina, and this is how bad I wanted to be a coach or lead. My paycheck, I laminated it. 2 cents. 2 cents, no kidding. 2 cents. I laminated my paycheck because I thought I'm just going to keep this for memory, and I still have it in the box somewhere. And I was coaching at a university, and this guy from Germany said, "You can come help us in Germany for 3 months." I'm like, "Well, my paycheck's 2 cents. What do you pay?" and really, we give you an apartment, a car, and a little bit of salary. And I'm like, "All right." So I went over for 3 months and stayed 15 years.
Wow.
And in those 15 years, I really found myself, because until you're in an environment that you can't speak the language, you can't read. I went to a grocery store in the first week, and I go up to the meat counter, and I said, "Turkey breast? Ich verstehen Sie nicht, was Sie gesagt haben? Ich verstehen Sie überhaupt kein English." And so as an American, what do? Louder and slower. "Turkey breast." And they're like, "Hey, verstehen Sie auch nicht?" And so turkey, I finally got turkey, and so the lady came from behind the counter, walked me out of the store, and took me to the store next door, which was a travel agency. She thought I wanted to go to Turkey. No kidding. No kidding. So I learned, okay, I gotta get into this culture really fast. And so I learned how to say 5 words: who, what, when, where, why. Wer, was, wo, wann, warum. And I learned those 5 words. So if I needed to know something, where something was, like a restaurant, I knew how to say where, wo. So then I went to the library and rented out children's books with pictures, with the picture and the German word above it. And so I wanted to know a restaurant. Wo Gaststätte, where restaurant. Was das? What's that? Wo Krankenhaus, where hospital. And sooner I branched out from there. I should patent this method, by the way. I branched out from there in children's books, and there was no DVDs with the subtitles in the early 90s. Really, that technology wasn't there yet. And but I went to the theater, the Kino, and watched some movies in German with English subtitles. That helped. And pretty soon I could start putting together a sentence, and I taught myself to be fluent. Fast forward 11 years later, I had the part of, if you all remember you might not remember The Apprentice that Donald Trump was in. They had the German version of The Apprentice, and I was Donald Trump. So from not speaking to having a 2-cent check, and I don't want to slap myself, but I was really proud of being able to move to a country by myself, and I had a suitcase. That's all I had, and nothing. And learn the language, and it was Europe's largest television show that year in 2004.
2 years later?
10.
10 years later.
10 years,
yeah.
93 to 2004. 10 years later, yes. So, and I was like, all right, I'm really getting some value out of this experience. I really did. In the meantime, in those years, we won 8 German national championships, and we were the runner-up 3 times. If you know, I am gonna brag a little bit because not many people can say this. If you know who Tom Brady is, they call him the GOAT. He's the best American football player of all time. He's got more championship rings than everybody except me. So I've got more than Tom Brady. That's my claim to fame. A little different level, but so
that's pretty cool.
Came back. I got bored. Winning became I needed a challenge. Came back to the United States and went to some small colleges, and it was a struggle. It was hard. There were programs that were really struggling, and you learn some humble pie. You think you got it all figured out. We're just beating the brakes off everybody over there. We're just trouncing them, winning, doing well. Had a TV show, and I'm like, I'm bored. I need more. So I came back and wound up working for Winnebago Industries, which is the RV manufacturer. They build the big motor homes. I was in sales for them. I was a territory manager, one of 6 throughout the whole United States. I had the Northeast in Canada, then I had Central USA in Canada, and learned a lot about business, applied a lot of my background skills, just trying to meet people, would train salespeople at different dealerships. I had over 200 salespeople to train, and just learn about building relationships, just being up front, and selling with integrity. And it was a perfect opportunity and the perfect training ground to come work for a company that is based upon that. Integrity, hard work, being humble, not telling people how many championship rings you have, but being sincerely humble. And that's brought me here today. I'm a proud Bloomfield native. I've done quite a bit. I think this format is better. I'm happy to share anything along the way. I learned a lot about goal setting, how to set goals and achieve goals, how to lead, how to motivate, some of those things. So we had some questions maybe. I don't know if you want to do it like that, or I can open it up and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask Ken any questions you have. I got a couple just from your story that I can't quite let go. 2, I guess. One is when you were coaching there, how did that work? How many people were you leading? I mean, you had players, you probably had assistant players and other people.
Through my career, it's anywhere from, there were smaller rosters because you have budgets. So 50 was the max, but the coaching staff was up to 10. In the USA, I had 130 players and a staff of 12. So it'd be no different than each position on a football field. You've all heard like quarterbacks and things like that. There's a quarterback coach. There's a lineman coach, and he has all these. And it's no different than being an organization. You have your leader of your organization or of that department, and then they have their other leaders, and you all work together. And it's been a huge assistance to me to be able to get in that structure where you have to, I call it internally, I call it the artery. There has to be an artery flowing in your team. As you played Draven Garl, there's a connection between your teammates and that artery. If that artery is blocked, there's a problem. Same in a team or an organization. So yeah, we had to always keep our coaches, our assistant coaches, our department managers in the loop. Everybody knew exactly what everyone else was doing, and we made it the first thing we did every day as a coaching staff was meet. And the first thing we did before practice is we would tell you, okay, this is what our practice is going to look like, and this is how we operate, and this is, otherwise you say, we're gonna practice for 3 hours, and you're gonna look like, ugh, 3 hours. If you say, we're gonna practice on 3 hours, and we're gonna work on zone exchange, we're gonna work on 3-step, we're gonna work on, you break it down for them. It's no different when you're leading an organization. We're gonna, hey, we need to talk about our trim brake. We need to talk about our efficiency. We got a lap problem on the roll form, or whatever it is we talk about. There has to be clarity, and then every day, and that's something we're working on implementing pretty strongly at Metal Wholesale, is making sure we communicate from within, and there is no block in the artery in the entire organization. So,
Seen you do that firsthand. I mean, that's a lot of what you've done the last 2 years of Metal Wholesale, just connecting, getting that communication going, and bringing in some leadership and accountability there. Ken has been part of doubling the amount of locations in Metal Wholesale and keeping it all together with those lessons.
it's all about
You
team.
brought.
It is.
It's
We
awesome.
all do it, but I think it's no different than in the family structure. It's communication. No different. That's why I've been fortunate with being in the career that I've chosen and having to do it in different languages and things like that. Communication is paramount, because you can get a lot of big guys that think they can play football, or you can get somebody that that knows concrete, but can he communicate? Can he really communicate so you guys are on the same page? So when you need to go talk to a customer, that it's getting done the way you want it, and because you're the guy at the head of that company right there, it's no different. And I know you, Gary, when you fly, communication's paramount. So it's no different when I got to communicate to my wife where I'm. By the way, I forgot to tell her I'm gone next week a few days, so I better work on that communication.
Absolutely. Any other questions for Kent? I had some stuff I was going to fail to get a handout, but just some things that you inspired to ask about leadership, faith, family, fitness, finance. One thing that I'm wondering is how did you be a celebrity in a TV show and be a head coach of consecutive winning teams? Like, you just
That was.
did it at the same time, or what?
I did. It was a heck of a schedule. It really was. It was. So the 1 year that we had them going on at the same time. So you would film. I would film from like 5 a.m. till 2 p.m. And then I got in a plane and flew from Cologne, Germany, to Berlin. We had practice, and that was at 9 o'clock. I'd get done with practice I'd be done with about 9:30, and there were no more planes coming back from Berlin to Cologne, which is about 6 hours away. So the film company sent a limousine. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was absolutely. I'm from Bloomfield. I'm like, I got a limo. I had a guy named Thaddeus. Thaddeus is like, do you need anything? I'm like, who are you? He said, I'm your assistant. I go, assistant? I give me some toothpaste. How's that? That's all I ever had him do. And so we would drive back, and I would sleep. I would sleep in the car. And it really wasn't like a limousine, La Plush. It was just a nice big sedan. They could fold it out. I slept in the car. And I would get there, and about the time I got back to Cologne, we had to start filming again. So there was a rotation of, it sounds awesome. You get a limo, you get to fly, you do this. I'm sleeping in a car, literally. And we still won. We still won the championship game. We were big underdogs. No one gave us a chance. And we won because we rallied around each other. And it's awesome I love it when people don't believe in me. I do. It spurns me on.
How do you balance focus when you're in two different intense worlds like that?
Boy, that's a good question. I can remember studying video for our opponent because when you film with TV, and I'm not an answer, but it was an interesting experience. When you film with TV, it's they move the lights and all this stuff, and then you'd film, and then you sit and wait for them to move the lights. So I would do that in between. But it required a lot of discipline. It was not easy, I will tell you that. I don't know if I could have done that for several years. It was not as cool as it sounds, but I have a saying, and I say this a lot. I say it in personal relationships, I say it, is be where your feet are. Because we all have that. When we're at work, that's where our mind should be. When we're at home, my feet are home. That's where I need to be. So I use that. I have to remind myself of that. Be where your feet are. And that's what I really tried to do. So when I was with that team, I gave them every bit, and I was exhausted. I gave them every bit of my effort, and when I was on the filming, I was going to give that effort too. I wasn't going to try to miss that. So it's just like, okay, I'm here. I got to focus on this. And I did sneak in some video in between, but I use be where your feet are at least once a week, at least in my mind, like, all right, button up here. And because we all have it. There are things that arise at work or things that arise at home that you're like, I need to be here. And that's been a saying for me, that be where your feet are. It helps me a lot.
Thanks for the question. Feel free to think of some more and ask some more as well. I'll ask a couple here in between. Just raise your hand if you have one, or shout it out. What is a leadership mistake that you made that you've learned from?
Oh, yeah. How long do we have? How long do we have? And I think that's been the best training. I've set some goals that weren't realistic, but that's not really it is sort of a leadership thing. And one thing I found out about that, so my first year, so I'm a head coach. My first year as a head coach, and I'm actually making more than that 2-cent paycheck I had. And I said, we're going to win the championship. And I had a sign up, and it basically said, championship, that's the only goal. All right? Wow, that sounds pretty cool, right? I'm like, yeah, we're going to win the championship. That's the only goal there is. And I found out that after we lost about 3 games that it was mathematically impossible for us to win the championship. Or we were out of it. We just weren't that good. But, it didn't matter. I thought it sounded pretty good. We're going to be great. But and about halfway through the season, I could tell that, what do we have left for goals? There's nothing left. And I could feel it slip away. I could feel, well, we're sitting there trying to motivate them and trying to get them to believe, but you said the only goal that matters is winning a championship, but we might not even come in 5th. And so I learned to try to do, and then you've heard me talk about stacking positivity. Oh. So if you stack a goal, so if we want to have a goal of this, what's the path to get there? So it's nice to say, I want to be here, and we do this real well. I know at Metal Wholesale, we talk a lot about steps. We have goals, and you all have goals, but what are the steps to get there? And I learned that early, and that one hit me in the teeth pretty hard. And, and sometimes when I was younger, I was a little bit more, I was sometimes just out of control with emotion, out of control with passion. And I think anybody who's led a company or led a department or been a part of one, you've either been the boss or had a boss and I've been that boss, it sounds like a leader, that if you're the leader, you think you have to do everything. And when I first started coaching, I thought I had to coach every position. Well, that's why I have this coach. So I was coaching over the top of them and not letting them be natural leaders. And I was hamstringing the structure. And I think we've all been in a situation where you get autonomy, you get a chance to really be a leader and do something you want. And then here comes somebody, well, let's do it this way. Or you gotta allow them to make mistakes. And I wasn't. And it was bad leadership. And I learned pretty early, we've talked about these things, you have to pull back to be better. And as soon as I did, we started winning. And we won a lot. And we were playing in front of, so you think about American football in Germany, there's 34,000 people in the stands. It's on TV, it mattered. It was pretty cool. It wasn't like we're just playing in some backyard. It was a big deal. It was a lot of fun. But you had to have success. And man, when we started hitting it, and I started growing up fast, started to learn how to be a better leader by doing less and giving your other leaders that you get around. And I would always say, don't try to get clones. Don't get people just like you. And always try to get somebody smarter than you, which is, I don't know why you have me. But try to get people around you that are going to be smart and want to grow.
Something you've always said is trust the process.
Yes,
and
sir.
Typically, I think about that as, the rest of the team trusting the process, but you kind of need to trust the process that your team's going to deliver too. So it can go both ways. I hadn't
Yes.
thought about that before. But
Yeah, we talk about that quite a bit, trusting the process, and it's hard. It's hard when you lead if you're in a leadership situation, because you don't always know, are they gonna do their part? Because I might be responsible for this, and you have to trust that it's going to happen. You have to trust the decision that's going to be made, and then if the arteries are open, and you do trust your people next to you, and you really treat people kindly and have some passion, I'll guarantee you're going to be successful. I'll guarantee it. Promise you.
Ken, how does fitness, health and fitness affect your life and your leadership effectiveness? Like, what role does that play?
I think you have to be a good example, and I try. I'm 62 years old, and 2.5 years ago, I couldn't walk 200 yards. In 13 months, I had 2 new ankles and a hip, and I just said, I'm gonna get it done, and I made a commitment to myself then that I'm gonna change the way I eat. I'm gonna change the way I live. I'm gonna do this right. And I walk every morning. I wear a 45-pound weight vest, and I get up at 4:45. I do fitness, lift weights, and nothing hard, nothing heavy. And then I walk with that 45-pound vest with my dog, and I come back and I sit on that patio, and I enjoy 30 minutes of coffee, and I sometimes even meditate a little bit. And I can't remember who was on the plane when we were talking about that. It's not always the same stuff, but I find something, and just find some happiness and some peace. And I know that I'm in better shape at 62 than I was 52. And my goal is to be in better shape at 72 than I am 62. So it's important, because I think if they don't see if people you work for and with, don't see your energy every day, it's, especially if you're in a leadership position, you show that vibrance, you show that energy, and we have no issues with that out there. Everybody's pretty vibrant and energetic. But it's been an eye-opener for me. Fitness is a major piece of.
Yeah. From a faith standpoint, how have you integrated that into your life and your leadership? What does that look like?
Immensely. It's been a change, and it hasn't always been great. I'm here to tell you, it hasn't always been great. You imagine when you're single, living in Europe, having fun, doing things, and enjoying life, but not inwardly happy at times. And I can tell just in the last 2.5 years, being around really spiritually centered people has had a major impact on my life, and in a good way. I'm far from anything perfect and ideal, but I'm making some big strides, and I'm really at peace and really comfortable with the direction I'm going in my life and spiritually. And we talk about, I really believe this, and we talked about it in a meeting, and we talked about it yesterday. I'm just going to say, I think no matter where I'll just say where your faith is. I'll just talk about faith. And one thing I learned about faith is the light that Jesus Christ provides for all of us. And I thought, well, why can't I be? I'm not trying to be Jesus Christ. Well, why can't I be the light? Why can't I walk in a room and just try to be polite and try to greet people and spread a little light, because there's a lot of darkness out there, and light always cancels darkness. You can bring something dark in here, and it won't matter if there's enough light. You can take a completely dark room and light a match, and it makes a difference. So I think with all the darkness, if just be a little bit of the light, that's where I think I can try to, and that comes through faith.
Yeah.
It's not trying to come in and be be the jokester. I do that too. I don't know why people pick on me. I get picked on quite a bit, but I don't, undeservedly so, you can well imagine. But just come in and try to be that spark, because even a dark room can be lit with a little match.
Absolutely. What book or quote or practice has made biggest influence for you?
There's a lot of them, and I use them in certain situations. I talked about be where your feet are. That's been a big one. I know you guys have heard this. Maybe you won't remember, but I think there's always crossroads in every person's life, and I use this, and I'll try to remember the quote exactly. And that is, in every person's life, there comes a point. You get to that point, no matter what it is, whether it's faith, whether it's sports, whether it's work, whether it's relationships. In every person's life, you come to a point where you have to stand firm where you are, and at that point, you have to make a stand on who you are and what you really believe in. And I think that's true. It comes like, okay, I'm drawing the line right here. And I think at some point, we've all been there like, enough. This is where I'm making my stand, right here.
Absolutely.
And I use those a lot. I've used them in different scenarios, in relationships, in business. Like I'm making a stand right here. That's it. Because they're going to know exactly if they don't want to buy from me, or if this person doesn't like me, whatever it is, here's my stand. And I'm not saying I'm righteous or anything by it, but I'm being honest. I'm not going to do this anymore. And this is the way it's going to be. That's one. Being the light is another one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then my father taught me one. He'd say it was something along the lines of see life as a child, but don't act like a baby. And if you think about it, I mean, what did we learn as you little kids? Hold hands when you cross the street. Be kind. Don't kick. Don't fight. All those little things that children have in their eyes, all the little things that we unlearn as adults is something. And I still screw up. I make mistakes, but if I can keep that in mind, that goes along with a lot of those other things. Just see life as a kid, because the wonder through a kid's eyes is pretty cool. You just can't act like a baby. And yes, ma'am.
What are you doing to inspire your children to greatness?
Wow, it's parenting's a rough one. Yeah, I try to engage with them, keep them involved, teaching them to be polite, and it's hard sometimes. Kids, I was painfully shy, believe it or not. I really was, and I have 2 shy kids, and I don't want to, to have it come on. I don't want them to come out of their shell and be something that they're not, because I think it'll come naturally. Maybe it's in the genetics, but they'll get out of it. So, but I just, again, and to hug a 14-year-old daughter, it's just not what she wants to do. She doesn't want to hug her dad all the time. But try to, I try to act like what's important to you. Ask them questions. What do you? I talk about, whether it's a friend or boys or whatever it is. I just try to be where my feet are with them, and where my feet are with them. It's really, you have to focus up, because if you're bringing work home, and you have a child that's growing up in those age groups. And sometimes that's harder than the younger ones. The younger ones you can play and throw and all that stuff, but when they start growing up, that's where it really matters to be where your feet are and be the light and all those kind of things. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah,
But.
So 2 more questions here, and if anybody else has some more yet, throw them out there. But if you could go advise your younger self, give yourself some advice, what stands out? What would you say?
Be bold. Take bold action. Don't look back and regret the things you didn't do. I regret the things that, I did that, but I learned. And take action. Be bold. I mean, anything in history that was accomplished whether it's in relationships, you think of like great love stories, or you think of historical inventions. None of it was easy. None of it. All of them are challenging. And I think there's a saying in sports, it's the difficult that makes it great. And I would say, chase the difficulty, and be bold with it, and take bold, decisive action. And
Love it.
doesn't mean you just have to reflex everything, but man, that's how we move the needle on this planet, is people taking bold action and having the courage to ask your wife to marry you and all those things. We've all been there, and just to be in those relationships and be courageous. That's what I'd go back and tell myself again. And I was fortunate. My parents they enforced that a lot, reinforced that quite a bit.
Love that. Be bold. Go for it. So yeah, really appreciate you sharing your life story and being vulnerable up here. What are you most excited about in your next chapter of life?
I'm excited to see the growth of my children. I think that's probably the most exciting.
Help lead them and be an example.
Yep, I think that's the biggest, and looking forward to just trying to live out the twilight of my career better than next 60 years are going to be better than the first 60. That's my goal, and you'll have to throw me out of metal wholesale.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming out and sharing with us. Let's give Ken a hand. Oh,
So when
yeah.
you were putting your team together,
Yes, sir.
what did you find worked the best, especially at a smaller entry level, starting out putting that? Did you find it's better to train guys up, or did you find it's better to get guys with experience, especially at a smaller level where you don't have training implemented and don't know how you want everybody to act in?
That's an awesome question. And my answer would be this: passion. Passion. So, and I'll give you an example. There'd be people that wanted to come play for us or whatever, and starting out, and they had some experience, and sometimes it's hard to break old habits, but it requires zero talent to give effort. You don't have to be special to give effort. So we always looked for effort. That was the foundation of how we became really good, and we won a lot in a row. And I don't think anyone's ever come close since then. And that's been 25 years ago. But our whole foundation was the work ethic. And like we always said, it requires no talent, zero talent to give effort. And if we find the people that give effort, they're going to hone their skill, because they're going to care, they're going to have passion, they're going to give effort. So if I were to build something from scratch, I'd look for just effort people, just people who just downright got after it. You're going to have a good day, because whether you're stacking rocks all day, let's just say you do your job, you're just going to stack rocks. Somebody work hard, they're going to get really good at it. And that's a poor example. But, just no matter what it is, they're going to get really good at it if they have the passion and the drive, and that's to me, I would not change that. It'd all be about effort. And occasionally you find the really talented people that also give great effort, and then you got a diamond. But someone gave them a chance, and someone started them that way. So, did I answer that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any
Thank you for that.
Questions? Okay, awesome. Thank you, Kent.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for being here. So we got a little handout I'd like to take a look at on Levi. I'll share them. Little shout out to co-host Garl Norman and Levi Good. They've been here to help make these plans and pull it all together between the getting everything set up and making it happen. So good guys that it wouldn't have happened without them. So what you have there is a a self-assessment sheet, and from 4 different areas of life: finance, fitness, faith, and family. And this is as if you can do a self-awareness test and rate yourself 1 to 10. How am I doing in this area of my life? And the goal isn't that you're a 10. That's not the goal. Because what you'll find in life is that if you might be really great in finance, but if your fitness and your health is struggling, yeah, you can maybe buy anything you want, but you can't enjoy it. You're not able to inspire others and lead others as well. So you need to take care of yourself. And likewise, if you don't have good relationships with friends and family, life isn't enjoyable either. So the key is, do an accurate self-awareness and see where you come out at, and then connect the dots. And if you're a 2 in fitness and an 8 with your family and a 9 in your faith and a 3 in finance, it gives you awareness that, you know what, my fitness and my finance, they're probably capping me from becoming the best person I can be and the best leader. I did a similar test. It had a few other things in there. It's probably been 3 or 4 years ago now, and it completely changed my life. It was at an event, and it was just one of the 20 speakers, and they rolled this paper out. I'm like, okay, this is a gimmick. I didn't come here for this. And it literally changed my life, because it made me aware of, I did a self-awareness test. I'm like, oh wow, I've got some things to work on. I need to work on my family efforts, my fitness for sure, my faith. I thought it was real great, but as you do one a few years later, you realize, you know what, I can do a lot better too. But it's a starting point, and just encourage you to fill it out and analyze it. It might be, it'll tell you, hey, which area to focus on, and then a year later, you might look back and be like, you know what, I grew in that area, and you can put your focus on the areas that are suffering, so that you can be. The goal is to be a complete circle. It's better that you have a complete circle at 3 rather than having some at 1 and some at 10, and then you can grow them. Because I guarantee you, if you get way ahead on one area of life, it'll hold you back. You'll get a reset. It'll stop until you catch up with the other areas of your life. I found that in my life, and it's been a very effective tool. So I feel free to do that. And then at the bottom, you can say, hey, this is where I'm at right now, and your goal, and then how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? And something that I know I've had a big part of my life is reading books, just learning from other people. Kent learned, but he got out in the world and learned things, and learned some stuff the hard way, but and learned from books. But that's something that you can get other perspectives and really grow. And I'll throw out a couple of book recommendations as well. So definitely fill that out, utilize that. Future events, we're going to look in, we've been kind of looking to focus on leadership with today's event. In the future, we want to look at finance and kind of alternate back and forth. The reality is they all work together. So there's going to be conversations that come up in every area of where you're at in spiritual life and how you're doing with relationships and family, and of course fitness and finance as well. But one book, if you want to write them down, feel free. On the finance, a book suggestion is The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a very short story that gives real context of money. It's a very basic book. All 4 of these I'm going to throw out here are available if you go online to the bookstore here, and you can purchase them. They can either have them pick up here, or they can mail it to you. It's very short, easy one. That you can read that in a couple hours. In a fitness side of things, which it covers more than just that, but I'm actually rereading that book right now. My friend Levi recommended that one, 5 a.m. Club, and it's another story book. For some reason, them resonate with me, but and you can kind of do the math. It's hey, getting up 5 o'clock, you get up an hour early, and you take 20 minutes of focusing on your exercise, and 20 minutes of meditation and spiritual, and 20 minutes of planning your day. Just 1 extra hour. The quickest excuse, the first thing, if I asked any one of you, why don't you focus more on faith or family or fitness or finance, you're like, well, I don't have time. Well, getting up an hour early and you got it. You just created it right there. And that has been a big journey for me as well. And then I don't know what book I had for family. That's just kind of, I don't have one on top of my mind. Faith is one I like is Spiritual Man. That's by Watchman Nee. It's a very large book. It's very deep on Christianity. But anyways, I'd recommend checking out the Richest Man in Babylon. Ideally, you read that. Maybe we discuss that a little bit next time if you come back for next month. That we're getting close to 6:30 here. On the leadership aspect of it is you have to develop yourself so that you can be an example. You want to be an example to your children. Well, you can tell them a lot of things, and it may or may not, it's going to sink in, but the example you set is going to be what they remember. It's going to be what they follow. And that's the same way whatever area of life that is. Your example, who you are. Am I spiritually grounded? Am I financially making good decisions? And in every area of life, who you are is what is going to get. That's what people are going to see and ultimately do. So develop ourselves so we can be an example and ultimately lead others to create a successful life. Leadership kind of just ties in all areas together. But I have discipline equals freedom on the bottom there. You have to discipline. If you want to get fit, it's going to be discipline. I mean, you went through that with sports. Like, disciplining, doing the hard thing equals the freedom there. To get financial freedom, you have to be disciplined, and you have to say no to some things and plan. To have great family relationships, it takes time. The only way you grow a relationship is spending time. I learned that in business before I learned it in my family, which is unfortunate. But I finally gathered it. I learned that if you spend time with a customer, you build a relationship, and it grows the relationship and ultimately can make a good business relationship. But it's that time. The only way to grow that relationship is spend time with them. And like, hey, that'll work for my children. That'll work for my wife. And it does. But you've got to have the discipline to say, I'm going to put the phone down. I'm going to go home from work. Sometimes Ken will stand at the office and say, you're going home before I leave. And that's awesome. That's what I needed. And that's discipline. And then it's the same in your spiritual walk as well. But discipline equals freedom has been very awesome part, a very good phrase that I like to think about in any area of life as well. Yeah. I just wanted to, the whole idea here was just to inspire. Maybe you grab a thought, an idea. I know as I went to different events and places, or even books, as I'm reading a book, if you just get one good thing that you can implement in your life out of it, it's worth it. It might be a $10 book, but you get that one idea. There's going to give you a bunch, but you get that one and you implement it, it can change your life. So hopefully you can grab one idea from this evening and implement. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And hopefully you can dive in, live an invested life, and make a difference in your life, and ultimately change the community and the world around us. So thanks a lot. You're all dismissed.